Hello everyone, welcome to Rethinking the X-Files. We are doing Season 10, Episode 3, No, it's Mulder, Scully, crying out loud. Mulder and Scully meet a were-monster. I'm Elton, this is Scott on the other end of the line.
Hello everybody.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to your opinions on this one. I suppose it would be classed as a Monster of the Week type episode. I don't know.
Yes.
Because you're not like a massive fan of this. I'm intrigued as to what you'll actually think of this.
Well, do you want to share your thoughts first, or do you want to hear mine first?
Okay, go on then. I'll share my thoughts. Just for anyone listening live, yes, we are live. We're on Mixlr at the moment. It's mixlr.com/Rogue2Media. And you can listen to all of the stuff that I normally do on here from now on. It'll be either Rethinking the X-Files or Shonky Lab, which will be broadcast on here. You can come along, listen live. You can join in on the chat room as well. We've got the chat room open at the moment. I think it's just me, you, and Doreen in there at the moment, which is awesome.
That's more than enough.
Well, it was very late notice, and I was kind of, okay, yeah, do you know what? Let's go for it. And plus, this hasn't even aired over in the UK. You know, somehow I got hold of a copy. But, yeah, it hasn't even aired over here. So I think tonight, right now actually, they're airing episode 2. So we're miles behind at the moment.
Yeah, that's all right. It's we don't want to encourage bad behavior.
Oh, goodness, no. Why would we do that? No, definitely not. Anyway, yeah, so you can come along, listen to us live whenever we're putting this out. Join the Shonky Lab Facebook group, and that's where I'll post all that stuff up so you can find out there. So, anyway, that's all done. This episode, I've seen it a couple of times now, and I don't know whether I love it or despise it. There's many reasons for both. I was giggling like a banshee all the way through it, but then when you sit down and think about it, maybe I'm thinking about it a bit too hard. I do not know. I enjoyed it. It was kind of a slap in the face of, oh yeah, they do these sort of episodes as well, don't they? Mm-hmm. I'd totally forgotten all about that. I kind of just wanted the hard sci-fi edge to everything. And then having this just whoop me in the face was kind of a nice retreat back to 1995 or whenever I was actually watching the X-Files. Because they used to do, every now and again, there'd be a comedy, sort of light-hearted episode. I can't name any of them because I can't remember any of them, but I do remember them being there. And this took me back. Like I said, I'm still undecided of whether I love it or hate it. I don't know. I don't know where I should actually go on this.
I don't think you're alone. Just looking online, the general reaction, reviews tend to be, it's a love-hate, most likely love reaction they're getting, but a lot of people will say in their reviews, I loved it, but I could understand why a couple people might not have been all in on the style of it.
Yeah.
For me, I thought it was campy. I thought it was... Have you seen the movie Evolution with our friend Mr. Duchovny?
Yeah, years and years ago.
Had that kind of feel to it, almost like a self-parody, which I understand it's part of the type of episode they do from time to time. I thought it was a little over the top. It was funny. There were clever, really clever elements to it, and then there were a couple of like wink nod things that were like, I literally eye rolled as I was watching. Oh, really? But I thought it was good for what it was. I understood very quickly what it was going to be and how it fit into a typical X-Files season. But yeah, I think you have to be in the mood for that. If you are if you're looking for progression of story, if you're just even, for example, when you watch a movie on Netflix or something, I say to my wife all the time, like, well, what are you in the mood for? Because sometimes you want silly, sometimes you want drama. You had to be receptive to the nature of this episode, or it could catch you and have things that are meant as puns could be a little frustrating at times.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I'm still trying to work out where I sit with it. There were some really cracking moments in there. The Scully moment when she's gone into the phone shop, and you just think, because I've been catching GIFs of this online, and people just grabbed it and put it up there, and where we're a week or two behind you guys already, it's inevitable that I would actually see this sort of stuff. And catching that bit there, and you think, hang on, that's a bit out of context, or why would she do that? That's not like her. But then once you get into the story and realise it's a load of crap that this guy's making up, it made me chuckle. It really did. At what point did you realise it was more of a having a laugh episode?
I think I wrestled for a long time in the first third or so with why Mulder was just so opposite of how he was in the premiere. Like now they're throwing away. He's going through the old case files. This was ICE. This was a fraternity prank. This was a promotion for a gardening company. So I was trying. It started to give me a sign there that this might be a little more tongue in cheek than serious. And I think it was probably right around when they were at the hotel. I mean, there were moments that you laugh and you recognize it's overly silly, but when they're going through the peepholes and you see them looking at Mulder in his red Speedo and it was kind of, all right, this is, it's beyond silly. And then with the big reveal of the nature of the monster, that it went, I thought it got very clever, but definitely had fully committed to going into a silly episode. It reminded me of comic books back in the 80s and 90s. I don't know if they still do them now, but every once in a while you would just have an episode that was like Marvel Team Up is one that I have. It used to always be Spider-Man and somebody else, and they would, for some unusual context, they're thrown together and they meet up with a nemesis, they fight him, and they go their separate ways. But there's one, and I remember it said not a dream sequence, not a what if, not all these things, and it was Aunt May and Franklin Richards versus Galactus.
Oh, okay.
And she's babysitting Reed Richards' kid, and they're at the circus, and something happens, and he needs a herald, and he hungers for the planet, and the story is she creates a gigantic Twinkie to satisfy his hunger.
As you would do.
Twinkie-shaped planet for him to go and eat instead. And it was just silly, but and I remember being when those kind of things would come up, it depended really on my state. Like I was saying before, was I down to my last $5 and I was kind of pissed I spent 60 cents on a comic book that I was going to read once and have no interest in, or was it one where I felt a little more like, it's a good silly story in there every once in a while. Yeah.
Well, shall I just take us through the plot?
Sure.
Of this? I'm just going off the Wikipedia page on here. It says, when a dead body is found with its throat ripped open in the woods outside Shawan, I think it is, Oregon, Dana Scully and Fox Mulder are called in to investigate whether it was an animal attack, a serial killer, or maybe a strange creature as described by eyewitnesses. Mulder continues to question his faith in the unexplained as an attempt to gather proof of the existence of a new creature. He and Scully investigate before jumping to conclusions. It was a kind of arc episode for Mulder. in the fact that he started off just downbeat and kind of peed off, whipping pencils at posters as well. There's a lot of Easter eggs in this episode.
Yes.
Like the whipping the pencils at the poster. There was an episode where it was noted that he was really good at throwing pencils into a ceiling. Also, in the chat, Doreen has said that the season 5 episode, was it the Postmodern Prometheus, was a really funny take on the Frankenstein story. So I might have to check that one out on my way through the seasons. Yeah, it was very much an arc story for him. He took centre stage in this, even more centre stage than the actual monster itself, or the alleged monster. The monster we meet really isn't a monster at all, is he?
No, when we first meet the animal control person, though, I it may be a little bit jaded from how, like, right out in front it felt like the premiere episode had been. I thought, oh well, that's the monster, and then we find the monster's running around in tighty whities, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's not the monster. He's fully dressed. There was a couple good misdirects in there, but yeah, at the beginning, I believe you mentioned Easter eggs. I think the two people at the beginning who were sniffing the paint, they're from an earlier episode somewhere, which I think is supposed to be acknowledged in some way by Mulder when he sees the photos.
Weren't they? I've read somewhere that they were kind of stoners in a different episode anyway.
Yes.
Wow, it's just good. It's just bringing back all the old stuff that everyone likes and wants to see, all in a nice bow. It works so well on so many levels.
Yeah. It's you mentioned about how Fox, it seems like he's down, very down, and questioning his belief. Now, I thought that was a big difference from where we kind of left him in the previous episode. He seemed pretty much all in Founder's Mutation.
Yeah,
and we mentioned in the last episode how it seems a little roller coastery about, we had how he was kind of spent and burnt out a little bit prior to the 9/11 truther coming into his life and rekindling that interest and enthusiasm. And I mentioned to you off air that I had found something that said we're being presented the episodes out of order, and that might explain things a little bit.
Right. So what's going on there then? Are they definitely out of order?
Yes. There's. It's only like 3 paragraphs. I'll read it quickly to you. The current X-Files season is only 6 episodes long, but something curious is going on with their schedule. They aren't airing in the order they were filmed. The revival stuck to one of its initial plans, starting and ending with mythology chapters. But the hours in between have been shuffled. What was filmed as episode 2 will now run as episode 4. What was filmed as episode 4 will now air as episode 5.
Right.
What was filmed as episode 5, what was intended to be the second to last episode, is the one we watched last week, The Founder's Mutation.
Right, okay,
and then this is the only one that's in its current spot. So ideally it would have been the premiere, something else, this episode, something else, then the Founder's Mutation, and then the finale.
Right, okay. So it'll be more of Mulder maybe losing his way and this restoring it. Whereas
this might be the steps that bring him back to being that more invested agent that we see last week, because in theory that would have been toward the end of the season.
Okay.
X-Files creator says the shuffle was not done by higher-ups. It was done by him and his committee to tell the best story possible. Because we have a story arc that runs through the middle of the series, we were concerned that coming right off a mythology episode and going right into a standalone would have people saying, what happened? So it actually worked out. and it served episode 2 better to replace it with 5. It created a better continuity.
Okay, so, I can understand that.
Let's see. So it's that kind of explains a little bit. I guess in theory, the way it was filmed originally was we had the premiere, we had the interaction with Joel McHale, the truther, something that we have yet to see was filmed, and then this episode, and we're getting a Mulder who's more jaded and more questioning of the validity of their work. And it also takes into account what we had said last week about just how much time had gone by. Like it felt like it could have been weeks, it could have been just a matter of days. Founder's mutation seemed to build off the mythology that was introduced, but it just felt like a lot had happened and we weren't really sure what was going on. So in the initial filming, there were 3 episodes in between.
Yeah, you did say it seemed quite a long time. I was edging on a month, maybe. You was pushing a little bit further than that. So yeah, you were right on that.
Well, again, if you looked at where they left off last episode and go into this episode, it leaves unanswered questions. I mean, it seems like it felt like something should come up next. And you had mentioned to me you thought I might be disappointed in it. It might not be going that route, but perhaps it will. It'll be, if that was meant to be the penultimate episode, maybe the finale will. We will see those characters again. It will be a longer gap than was originally intended.
Yeah.
For viewers.
Yeah. In the chat, Doreen has said that the pencils were still in the ceiling in the first episode. Do you remember that? There was a shot where Mulder and Skinner were talking in the basement downstairs, and you could see part of the ceiling taken down and the stepladder there. And it was a purpose to that shot. I didn't realise it possibly could just be to show the pencils in the ceiling. I've got another question that goes on that as well. Have we seen Mulder eating any sunflower seeds? Because I thought he was quite partial to the sunflower seeds. Maybe I'm missing a trick there. Maybe he's got off his addiction, but I don't remember seeing him with them. Because that's in the pilot, that's in the movie, in the first movie. It's knocked around a little bit as well. I don't know if it's stopped at any point at all.
I don't know. I haven't seen him. I'm trying to think of where we've seen him.
I don't think we've seen him at all.
Well, he was a mess in the first episode.
Yeah.
He seemed very together last week. And this week he seemed like hands up in the air. I quit. What's the point kind of thing. And it was interesting to me to see Scully kind of feeding him. Like, she definitely wasn't buying into all the theory, but she seemed to kind of be saying, go ahead, go run with that. That's, you have my blessing. Go follow that lead, and I'll be doing other work over here. Which my understanding is that's also a characteristic of some episodes, that sometimes they work as a team, sometimes they take separate paths, and you can't see my hands as I make a little arc, but sometimes they go different paths and reunite close to the end of the episode. So, and that would seem to be a feature of this one.
Yeah. Watching this episode for a second time, it's very well played when you know exactly what is coming up. It's like watching Primer for the millionth time. You kind of know what's happening and you kind of know where you are. But this was just so well done when you get the reveal of the lizard, or the lizard man.
Yep.
He was a lizard and he got bitten by the park ranger who was the werewolf. No, he wasn't a werewolf though.
That wasn't made clear. Is it just if any man bites a lizard person, they become lizard men, or is there something quirky about that animal control guy?
Well, that's what I couldn't work out, whether he was an actual... I'm sure if he was a werewolf, we would have seen him as a werewolf. Or something along them lines. In the title it says a were-monster, and so that must just be the lizard man, or the lizard that was humanoid and walking upright.
Guy man.
Yeah. Yeah, which took me ages to get. And he's bitten by a guy. And so that turned him into a human. And then he has all these...
craving. I want a job. I want a mortgage. I don't know what it is.
But he wants to go to work, but he gets a mortgage and I don't want to quit. I don't know why, but I just don't like it anymore. I don't want to get up in the morning. And I put myself in that place straight away. I'm like, I get it straight away. I kind of want to be a lizard instead of a human being going out and getting a job and doing all these normal mundane things. But yeah, I thought he was really well played. The lizard guy man, whatever his name was.
Did you like the casting? I mean, I understand it was meant to be a little bit of a silly episode, but he definitely, Rhys Darby, he definitely added some silliness to it as well.
I don't recognise him. Is there anything that I'd recognise him from?
Flight of the Conchords he was in.
Oh, don't watch that.
He's a comedian. But I mean, it was that insecure, fumbling, which I guess in retrospect, once you know the nature of the character, it makes more sense. But it picked up pretty quickly when they were talking in the cemetery and where they were going with this, as he was telling. I told you to start from the beginning. I did start from the beginning. I was just laying there. It took kind of like I paused, backed it up, and watched it again to get the gist that, yes, he was the lizard man. He was the lizard, I'll say. Yeah. And that there was another attack going on next to him. And so that truly was the beginning.
I think that's kind of cool, though, because he did say that he hibernates for 10,000 years. Yes. And so, if that is his only day out, and then he gets bitten, how's your luck, first off? And secondly, I love the way that he's just laying on his back, looking at the moon, not caring the world, and all of a sudden something happens, and he gets bitten. I thought he was... It's like watching a comedy movie where you watch a movie and you don't find it as funny as it should be, and then once you start talking about it, then you realise it's like Austin Powers going through them sort of motions. It's not that funny, but when you start talking about it, it's a bit funnier than what you remember. But
yeah. So, as far as the episode goes, and I know we're kind of going through this, we're halfway through now.
Yeah.
You've had 3 different style of episodes. You had a mythology episode. You had a more serious monster of the week with a hint of mythology, we think, connected. And then you had just kind of a silly standalone monster of the week.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, and there's 3 left, I mean, do you feel like we'll see a similar kind of one more of each, or I mean, ignoring what I had just read before, do you feel comfortable that it'll be each one separate, essentially? I mean, we are kind of jumping around. We're just, for how the premiere episode went, we've kind of just jumped back in now, and we're just catching so far 2 days in the lives of Scully and Mulder.
Yeah. I think this is the only lightweight one that we're going to see. I think in this 6-episode run, they wanted to show us what the X-Files was about. And it's about mythology and having a bit of fun and nice spooks as well. Mm-hmm. Kind of creepy, Doctor Who type creepy. Hide behind your sofa, but you're not really scared that much, really, are you? Come on, you're not that scared.
Yeah.
And it's just, they're just trying to remind us what we miss, and I think everyone has hit the ground running. After that first episode, it's just bang, we're back in the X-Files, watching new X-Files on the TV, turning up, and it's brilliant. And people are going to be crying out for more after this. I just have a feeling that they will. And they've done this to test the water. I think I said this to you offline last time we recorded.
Yes.
They're testing the water to find out whether X-Files is still relevant. And the response that it's getting at the moment, these are getting good ratings. They're getting a good amount of people watching them, and they're getting good reviews off of people. And it's not just from people that are nostalgic for the X-Files.
Right.
This is more people coming into it, looking at it with a fresh eye and going, yeah, do you know what? This works. It reminds me of the old stuff, but it works. It's relevant now. They've got... This episode, he had Mulder faffing around with his phone, and he's answering the questions that, why don't people have cameras on them? Why is everything a dodgy photo? And he's just showed you why things are dodgy photos, because he's faffing around with his phone, clicking away, he's bumbling around with the internet and stuff like that. He's all excited with this, and yet he's answering questions that we're all asking, even though we aren't asking them out loud. And it's doing a really good job of that. And I think with the 3 remaining episodes that we have, I've watched the next one, so I know what's coming up on the next one, because Channel 5 are idiots over here, and they just went, oh yeah, X-Files is fine. And plus it's showing now exactly the same time as Walking Dead is, so I don't even know what they're trying to play out. You're not going to battle against Walking Dead at the moment.
Yeah.
But this is working really well. And so I'm hoping that they will get a new season out of this, or a movie out of this. I don't think anything would be tied up. But the way that this episode went, you will see 1 or 2. If you have... I don't want another 23 episode season. That's too much for nowadays. I think maybe a 10 or 12 episode season would be fine, and throwing one of these in, maybe 2 slightly light-hearted episodes, just gives you enough bounce in the season to get you through. Because sometimes, if it's a filler episode, you might as well just not put it in there. We've been there with Lost, and they've had their filler episodes, and you kind of grind your way through, and I don't want to be doing that. And because people's time is precious, people can Netflix things, people can Amazon Prime things, people can record it and then get rid of all the adverts. Time is precious to people now, and they realise that, and having dead episodes doesn't work. It doesn't sell advertising now. So I'd like to see 1 or 2 more of these, but not in this run of 6 episodes. How about yourself? Scott?
I've muted myself. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I was talking and you were going, Scott. But, yes, I've resigned myself to the season pretty much going the way you would describe. So I'm fine with it having another standalone and not really progressing in a linear narrative and a mythology. The silliness of it, I have no problem with that. I thought it was a little bit much at times. I thought it was campy and corny, and that would be a turnoff to me if it got to be excessively that, because I really feel like I have to be in the mood for real goofiness. Because even in the silly fun episodes, I like to feel like it doesn't undermine the rest of the show. Not that it has to be all mythology and all, but you just I don't know how to put it so much, but to totally stand separate from the rest of the premise and other elements. It kind of throws me at times. How do you feel about the fact that none of the episodes have closure, in the sense that everyone's still on the run? No cases are solved and closed.
I like that.
The monsters are every monster of sorts is still out there.
I just saw an episode from season 2. I'm working my way slowly through it, and it's called Red Church, I think it is. And you had this brilliant thing at the end where Dana Scully is kind of writing up her report, and she was set there to not spy, but look over what Fox Mulder was doing. And she would narrate the ending while she was typing on her computer, writing up her report, saying that this person hasn't been found, this DNA cannot be classified, or we can't work out where this DNA is from, or it's broken down, and this person has no next of kin, so we cannot trace him, we don't know where this person's from, and so the case is still unsolved and it's still open. And I kind of like that, because that is part of the X-Files. Because you can't wrap everything up every single week.
Well, Doreen mentions that in the chat, that lack of closure is the X-Files. I just feel like that can become a suffocating element too. Like that if you're catching a glimpse of a day in the life of these two agents and they have experiences, but it all ends with, like, if they're either the worst detectives ever, if you take it out of a non-X-File setting, no crime is solved completely, no perps are busted. It's just experience after experience. Eventually, the cast of characters that are out there, it's great if they draw on them a season or two later or reference them in some way. It doesn't have to be formal mythology, but just kind of the world is big enough for a certain number of outstanding cases, but I think at some point some of these need to have a closure, I guess, for lack of a better word, and a finality to the character. Even if you bring them back a year and a half later of, you know what, they survived that and they're still here.
Yeah, I kind of like the open end of it. I'm quite happy for this. This episode did have a bit of closure to it, though.
Right, he's going off into his cave to hibernate.
Yeah, and it also re-established Mulder's fascination and his desire to do the X-Files, which is his arc on this episode. And so that is kind of closed per se, but having episodes that are open, I kind of like that, because, yeah, like you say, you can dip into that later on and pull it back into a new episode, maybe 1 or 2 seasons later. The problem they have at the moment is that they haven't got the long enough stretch to do that. So I think it's kind of open-ended, but Mulder's story was finished in that episode, so it kind of works. I don't think you'll ever see this guy again.
Right.
But I like that open-endedness. It kind of gave you a sense of, something could happen later on. When you was in season 2 and you knew that this was going to be a long-running show, you kind of just got used to it. And it was the way of the X-Files. And so you fell into this nice, happy... It's kind of like a big blanket wrapping around you. You feel cozy and safe because you know it's going to be open-ended, but you don't care because it was good. You had a nice story told to you, and so you can move on to the next episode. So I kind of like it.
Yeah, I can see that. I guess I'm thinking, say you took like Gilligan's Island, for example, or some of those, that type of show, that obviously they're not getting off the island, so every episode is going to be stuck with them still on it. But at least it's not like the film crew that came and left without them is somewhere on the island, and the Russian cosmonauts who landed on the island are not in a different corner of the island. Like, they all, even though the castaways are still stranded on the island, the new element there's a closure element to what has come of those who came and went. And they might come back again, but we're really only looking at the 3 episodes, so I have to take that into account. And you're right, the were-monster, we know where he's gone. The episode from last week, the 2 children, perhaps it's because it's out of order. Perhaps that would be they would be part of the finale.
Possibly.
And similarly with the characters from the premiere, they may be coming back. It does just kind of, there's some holes that it doesn't ruin it for me, but I am still thinking it would be nice to have, where is the truther host? I mean, I understand he lost his show, but he just disappeared completely, and they kind of spent a lot of time in that first episode talking about how pretty much all the mysterious phenomenon can be traced to our own government. So, and we kind of had that in episode 2. This one went against that a little bit, but it was nice to hear Mulder say, perhaps this is a Department of Agriculture person who was experimenting on himself, and he created this monster.
Yeah. Well, we've only got 23 minutes left on this.
Okay.
So, what bits caught your eye on this episode? What bits did you enjoy?
Well, I very much enjoyed the reversal of that. It was a lizard turning into a man rather than a man turning into a lizard.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was presented well. It was a clever redirect. That the idea that the true villain was who he was. I had mentioned, I think, in our first podcast about how I like it when you can look back at it and see dots that you could have connected.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of the humor and silliness was genuinely funny. I liked when the prostitute hit the monster with her purse, or his purse. There was just some silly parts to it. And it was good. I thought some parts of it, like Mulder with his phone, just like a little bit much. I got it. It was good. It was a little more than I wanted, partly because as far as the characters go, like I said from the beginning, they're not characters that I've liked over the years or felt an attraction to, and there wasn't something about that made me like them more. I found Mulder a little annoying with that, and Scully, I thought, like, not condescending, but there was it was like an insincerity. I was having a hard time, and it's my own fault because I'm trying to look at it linearly, to try to follow their attitudes.
I thought she was brilliant in this episode.
She played him very well. She manipulated him. She had a nice sense of humor. It just didn't feel sincere, and maybe it's just her and her other roles I've seen her in. I just neither one of them are two people that I would look for. Like I'd want to spin off Scully to have her own show or Mulder to have her own show. The way I might feel about other characters in a different series. Yeah.
I'm just going to go to the Wikipedia page for a second. You know when Scully took down the dog handler, and she said, "You forget I'm immortal." Now that in this Wikipedia page it says this was a reference to the Morgan-penned Clyde Brookman's final repose, wherein the title character, after being asked by Scully how she will die, responds that she will not.
Yeah, that's a fan theory I had heard too, that she may be probably based on that she may be immortal for whatever reason.
That's kind of cool. I like that, and it's harking back. But if you're not looking for that, then you can go along with it as a Scully quick quip.
Yeah, just a quip. Yeah.
But I love the fact that they're on the phone. Scully's had a situation arise, and by the time Mulder gets there, yeah, it's all right. He's all cuffed up, and she doesn't let him talk either. He wanted to monologue about what he was doing, and it's, no, shut up. Just save it for later. I don't care. Yeah. It's really good. Really enjoying them sort of little things that they were doing during it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said before, in the dream, she was acting it up really good.
Oh yeah.
She had it on sassy, and just reminding all the 15-year-olds out there watching it for the first time now, going, "Oh look, I'm Dana Scully. Your dad probably liked me." And all the kids just sitting there going, "Yeah, my dad probably did like you. I can see why, but I won't tell my dad. No, I won't do that. That's wrong."
See, like you never watched Fringe, and you probably would very much like it. You probably would like the first season or two more than the later ones. Although you like the mythology aspect too, so you might. I really liked the characters in Fringe a lot, and I don't have that connection. I don't know if it's because I came in with already attitudes toward the actors or the characters, but like I mentioned the movie Evolution, and it's I don't see a difference between that dichotomy character or Mulder, which might be on purpose.
Yep.
And even just it's just a way they play themselves that leaves me just kind of I'm cold toward them. And Gillian Anderson, the things I've seen her in as well, I find her playing similarly the same type of stoic, dry character. So I'm sure it was great, and I did enjoy like her lightening up a little bit. It just didn't feel like it was coming from anywhere.
Right. She was in a movie with Danny Dyer. I can't remember the name of the movie though, but it was a really good movie where they are boyfriend girlfriend, and they both get set upon by a gang, and it's down to them two to take this gang out. But it's such a good movie, and she is so good in it. And Danny Dyer, who is England's greatest actor at the moment. Yeah, it is a really good movie. I'm trying to find it on IMDb at the moment, but I'm just searching for Danny Dyer on IMDb, and now that's in my history, so I don't really want people to know that, even though I'm now saying it on a podcast, which is brilliant.
Well, I think it was a good episode. It definitely brought a style to the season that, like you mentioned, it's been part of their past. It's something that if they continue, I'm sure they want to do at least a couple episodes in it of that nature. And I don't think it hurt. It just it's definitely sealed what we were talking about last week, that I'm not going to get that progression of a larger problem from start to finish through 6 episodes. It's going to be maybe something that was introduced at the beginning, and 6 months later or sometime if time passes ... and the little red line flies across the map, and we go here, there, all these things happen, and then there we are, and we might get some follow-up action on that, and that's fine. It's just it's a different type of show than I was expecting going into it, but it's still something I can enjoy.
Yeah. I'm just enjoying it at the moment. I'm trying to go back to little things in this episode that I liked. Mulder's ringtone when he fell off the wagon, and what?
Yeah, the X-Files theme.
Yeah, X-Files. Is that corny? I don't know if that is corny. I suppose it is, but I kind of like it, and I can forgive it straight away because I'm just a sucker for that sort of thing every now and again. It was. I like the monologue between Guy Mann and Mulder at the what was it called? The cemetery. And I like the banter that's going between them two, backwards and forwards. And he pulls out the picture and says, "Is that you? Oh, third eye? I haven't got a third eye."
Yeah.
I just thought it worked really, really well. Even when Guy Mann was running away, and he was shouting out, "There's the monster! There's the monster!"
Yeah.
And it just kind of kicks Mulder into touch, and he realizes, hang on a minute, yeah, maybe I am the monster. And then we see him wake up. I just thought it flowed. It flowed really well, and I wasn't checking my watch through this one.
Right.
There was too many gags going on. There were visual gags going on as well. Mulder in red pants on the bed.
Yeah.
Which is a callback to a season 2 episode when he had Speedos on. It's just silly little things like that are really good. Even him finding the secret passage in the hotel and then slowly opening the door while the guy's cleaning his stuff on the desk.
Yeah.
I just thought it worked really, really well. And it didn't have a heavy tone to it.
No.
And it was nice and light and fluffy and kind of what I needed at that time. So yeah, it's a thumbs up for me. I've got no problems in it whatsoever.
So as we're here, and I mean, again, looking at reactions from people, some people feel it's a little too Easter eggy. They're squeezing a lot in there as nods to the fans. But the cameos and the names on the tombstones, like a lot of things, good casting, calling back to older episodes, it's something that a lot of people like to see. The one thing that definitely is not here is that whole what they call the shipping, like how will they, won't they get together kind of thing. And we had a little bit about their son.
Yep.
But there's no romance. There's not even romantic tension between the two of them so far.
No, I'm quite glad of that. I think that'll just add another flavour into a mix that it doesn't really need.
So you don't think we'll see it in the next 3 episodes?
What, them getting together?
Or the start of it coming, like the rekindling of a romance?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. No. I don't think it's needed. I think it was something that was always hinted at, and we never got it for a long, long time. And it was good because when you want something and you don't get it, you kind of want it more. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, they've given it to you at some point between the 2 movies. And, okay, well then, that loses an aspect of these 2 characters that we enjoyed watching. So we haven't got that aspect anymore. So I don't think we'll see that because that's been done.
Yeah, and I don't know with the passage of time. I mean, you have a gap. But it's 15 years since their son would be 15 years old. They said, correct?
Yeah.
So I think that they're. I mean, not to sound ageist, but they're probably a little bit older. It's not like you have, 2 hot 20-somethings that everyone's crushing over and things like that.
No, it's not Beverly Hills 90210, is it? No,
and you're not. Even in this episode, they didn't even spend enough time together, really, for that to be something that would develop. They were very much going their separate ways, and I would say even in the first 2 episodes, they spent a lot of time apart.
Yeah.
I mean, they were together at points, but, Scully was in the limo and Mulder's out following up leads in other places. They're not glued at the hip, and they're not. You're not going to get that natural development of you spend so much time together that, or been through so much together, saved each other's lives. In the heat of the moment, you turn and the walls are down.
Yeah. When we do see them glued at the hip in this episode, they're so off kilter from each other when they first hear the monster or the wereman thing. And Dana straight away pulls her gun, and Mulder straight away pulls his phone.
Yeah.
But I don't think you could have done that in any other episode. Any other, let's go back to the second episode where we saw the guy sticking the letter opener in his ear. Imagine if they'd done that at his apartment when they got there. It wouldn't have worked at all.
No, in that episode, they had the playful banter about old school. you know, he uses the thumb on the phone, and she knows her language translations.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was very much kind of a little playful jabbing, but not. I wouldn't call it flirting.
No. Okay, right. We're getting towards the end of this broadcast, so
All right.
we've got 9 minutes left. So, final thoughts, shall we? I think
Sure.
Might as well. Okay, yeah. What do you think? Rounding up after speaking to me about this as well, are you happy with this episode? Did you enjoy it as a?
I enjoyed it, and it was. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't one that made me sit there and say I hope there's more like it.
Yeah.
I think I liked the last episode better in terms of a template for a season, obviously with some variation here and there. But of the three we've seen so far, I've liked the structure of the second one best. And I think I didn't mind this. I liked it, but I think it would have been better suited to, would have felt more appropriate in a 10 or 12 episode stretch. It definitely closed the door for me on the idea of getting an overall arc, and I'm fine with that. But it was not the route that I was kind of hopeful they would go.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the episode. I laughed at it, and it was, I didn't take it too seriously. It was a nice distraction of something to watch, lighthearted.
Right. Okay. That's good, I suppose. I'm glad So, are we going to be calling you a non-fan or what? I do not know, because you kind of like this stuff.
It's a different take of how I could put it. Like, I liked for how campy the first Star Trek season was. I liked the first Star Trek series. I was not that much of a fan of the Next Generation, even though I think the storytelling probably was brilliant. I've seen many, many episodes, if not all of them, but it just wasn't the way I wanted my Star Trek presented. And I guess it would be something like this, like having seen Fringe and this and other buddy cop shows and other fantasy shows. It's not my choice of presentation, but I don't hate it. I don't get up and leave the room, or I don't necessarily flip the channel, but I also don't sit there and feel like I'm going to write a letter and lobby for for more seasons.
Doreen had just said that you're a wishy-washy fan.
Well, I'm trying to be polite too. But no, I mean, it's not what I expected. It's not what I hoped for. So I have to get past that. And taking that aside, it's fine. It's just not, would I recommend it to someone? I would probably say it went in what sounds like a wishy-washy ways. You might love it, or you might like it. It really depends on what kind of thing you're looking for.
Yeah.
I don't know if this would be as successful if it didn't have the 9 seasons preceding it. I mean, if it had no audience and was trying to build one from scratch, I don't know that would fly.
Yeah. Be kind of hard to drop that on everyone, really, wouldn't it?
Well, I think it's just choppy. And now that I know they're a little out of order, that I can cut it some slack on that too. But in a sense, the 3 episodes are not connected. And if you're introducing something from scratch, I think that's hard.
Yeah, definitely nowadays, where it is all about the arc, it is hard to try and drop something which is just so hard in the sci-fi, and yet a standalone episode. It is kind of hard to drop that.
Well, I think science fiction in general draws comparisons to other instances of science fiction as well. You're going to compare captains and leaders and races and ships and just all in all, there's kind of a blending and there's such a central nature of like the mentor, the heroic journey that characters go through and all.
Yeah.
And I think this very much feels like season 10, and it kind of picked up from where something left off. Had pretty good exposition. I felt fine going into the first episode. I felt like it brought me up to speed just fine. But it kind of, I bought into it on the idea of it's going to tell me a complete story, and it might still, but it doesn't seem to be headed that direction at the moment.
Yeah. Well, for this episode, I came into this not too sure where I am. Now I've spoken about it. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't recommend it as a starting point, but I think X-Files does this well, and it kind of needs it every now and again. You kind of need to be reminded that there are Loch Ness monsters, and there are other little monsters that are just a bit silly, and I think it works well. So I'm quite happy for this. I don't want this sort of thing every week, though. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for the mythology and
yes.
the gruesome, scary stuff. So,
well, I know we're tight on time, so let me real quick. Had this been a serious monster episode, would it have worked? And it could still be Lizard turns into man. That you could make that the serious route it goes. But had it not had all the camp and the silliness and the winks and nods, but it had been a little scarier, a little more suspenseful, a little more threatening.
It may have worked.
Would this monster have worked, or you would have needed it to be
I
blood
think
and drippy? And
I get the feeling they saw the suit and then went, do you know what? This ain't
save
gonna
that
work.
one for episode 3.
Yeah. Let's do the funny one here.
Yeah.
Because the suit looks kind of suitish. And so
Yeah, it looks like a 70s sci-fi mix.
Yeah.
Sleet Stacks I kept thinking of from Land of the Lost. Like that
Yeah.
kind of...
And you had the crazy music over the top as well when it was happening. But you had that is the X-Files, you had that in other episodes where you had stuff going down and they'd have appropriate music for the crazy monster of that week. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of like that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Right, okay. We are really running low on time at the moment. Okay. So, right, next episode. Have you seen it first?
I have not. I wait for you so I don't give anything away.
Okay, I won't. It's called Home Again.
Right.
And the plot says Mulder and Scully are sent to investigate the murder of a city official, which it seems no human could have committed. Ooh. I'm not going to give anything away. At all. Try not to anyway.
All right.
So, yeah, I guess we'll catch everyone else again next time when we record.
Yes.
You can go to the Shonky Lab page, and that's where I'll be letting everyone know where we'll be doing this. Is there anything you want to plug before we disappear, sir?
No. This is my my main event at the moment.
Okay.
We'll see where it goes as this continues. But no, just feel free to lurk and follow me on Facebook or Twitter, and keep checking out these episodes or older episodes.
Excellent. Yeah, all I would say is thank you everyone for listening, downloading this. Please, if you can, give us a review in the iTunes. It helps us up a magical ladder that doesn't really exist, but it does really, because it gets us to see other people will be able to find us up there. Yeah, rate and review us in there. And there's also, if you go to the site, there's a Patreon page where you can help us pay for all our hosting and stuff like that, and we will be able to bring you more and more shows and do this forever and ever and ever, and bring you more media, the likes of which you've never heard before.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Right, I think we better close it there.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, cool. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. See you later.
See you in a week. Bye.
Bye.
Views tend to be, it's a love-hate, most likely love, reaction they're getting, but a lot of people will say in their reviews, I loved it, but I could understand why a couple people might not have been all in on the style of it.
Yeah.
For me, I thought it was campy. I thought it was. Have you seen the movie Evolution with our friend Mr. Duchovny?
Yeah, years and years ago.
Had that kind of feel to it, almost like a self-parody, which I understand it's part of the type of episode they do from time to time. I thought it was a little over the top. It was funny. There were clever, really clever elements to it, and then there were a couple of like wink nod things that were like, I literally eye rolled as I was watching. Oh, really? But I thought it was good for what it was. I understood very quickly what it was going to be and how it fit into a typical X-Files season. But yeah, I think you have to be in the mood for that. If you are looking for progression of story, just even, for example, when you watch a movie on Netflix or something, I say to my wife all the time, like, well, what are you in the mood for? Because sometimes you want silly, sometimes you want drama. You had to be receptive to the nature of this episode, or it could catch you and have things that are meant as puns could be a little frustrating at times.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I'm still trying to work out where I sit with it. There were some really cracking moments in there. The Scully moment when she's gone into the camera. Hello everyone, welcome to Rethinking the X-Files. We are doing Season 10, Episode 3, No, it's Mulder, Scully, crying out loud. Mulder and Scully meet a were-monster. I'm Elton, this is Scott on the other end of the line.
Hello everybody.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to your opinions on this one. I suppose it would be classed as a Monster of the Week type episode. I don't know.
Yes.
Because you're not like a massive fan of this. I'm intrigued as to what you'll actually think of this.
Well, do you want to share your thoughts first, or do you want to hear mine first?
Okay, go on then. I'll share my thoughts. Just for anyone listening live, yes, we are live. We're on Mixlr at the moment. It's mixlr.com/Rogue2Media. And you can listen to all of the stuff that I normally do on here from now on. It'll be either Rethinking the X-Files or Shonky Lab, which will be broadcast on here. You can come along, listen live. You can join in on the chat room as well. We've got the chat room open at the moment. I think it's just me, you, and Doreen in there at the moment, which is awesome.
That's more than enough.
Well, it was very late notice, and I was kind of, okay, yeah, do you know what? Let's go for it. And plus, this hasn't even aired over in the UK. Somehow I got a hold of a copy. But, it hasn't even aired over here. So I think tonight, right now actually, they're airing episode 2. So we're miles behind at the moment.
Yeah, that's all right. It's we don't want to encourage bad behavior.
Oh, goodness, no. Why would we do that? No, definitely not. Anyway, yeah, so you can come along, listen to us live whenever we're putting this out. Join the Shonky Lab Facebook group, and that's where I'll post all that stuff up so you can find out there. So, anyway, that's all done. This episode, I've seen it a couple of times now, and I don't know whether I love it or despise it. There's many reasons for both. I was giggling like a banshee all the way through it. But then when you sit down and think about it, maybe I'm thinking about it a bit too hard. I do not know. I enjoyed it. It was kind of a slap in the face of, oh yeah, they do these sort of episodes as well, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
I'd totally forgotten all about that. I kind of just wanted the hard sci-fi edge to everything. And then having this just whoop me in the face was kind of a nice retreat back to 1995 or whenever I was actually watching the X-Files. Because they used to do, every now and again, there'd be a comedy, sort of light-hearted episode. I can't name any of them because I can't remember any of them, but I do remember them being there. And this took me back. Like I said, I'm still undecided of whether I love it or hate it. I don't know. I don't know where I should actually go on this.
I don't think you're alone. Just looking online, the general reaction, review of comic books back in the 80s and 90s. I don't know if they still do them now, but every once in a while you would just have an episode that was like Marvel Team Up is one that I have. It used to always be Spider-Man and somebody else. And they would, for some unusual context, they're thrown together and they meet up with a nemesis. They fight him and they go their separate ways. But there's one, and I remember it said not a dream sequence, not a what if, not all these things. And it was Aunt May and Franklin Richards versus Galactus.
Oh, okay.
And, she's babysitting Reed Richards' kid, and they're at the circus, and something happens, and he needs a herald, and he hungers for the planet. And the story is she creates a gigantic Twinkie to satisfy his hunger.
As you would do.
Twinkie-shaped planet for him to go and eat instead. And it was just silly, but and I remember being when those kind of things would come up, it depended really on my state. Like I was saying before, was I down to my last $5 and I was kind of pissed I spent 60 cents on a comic book that I was going to read once and have no interest in, or was it one where I felt a little more like, it's a good silly story in there every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, shall I just take us through the plot
Sure.
of this? I'm just going off the Wikipedia page on here. It says, when a dead body is found with its throat ripped open in the woods outside Shawan, I think it is, Oregon, Dana Scully and Fox Mulder are called in to investigate whether it was an animal attack, a serial killer, or maybe a strange creature as described by eyewitnesses. Mulder continues to question his faith in the unexplained as an attempt to gather proof of the existence of a new creature. He got the camera, the phone shop. Mm-hmm. And you just think, because I've been catching GIFs of this online, and people just grabbed it and put it up there. And where we're a week or two behind you guys already, it's inevitable that I would actually see this sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And catching that bit there, and you think, hang on, that's a bit out of context. Or why would she do that? That's not like her. But then once you get into the story and realise it's a load of crap that this guy's making up, it made me chuckle. It really did. At what point did you realise it was more of a having a laugh episode?
I think I wrestled for a long time in the first third or so with why Mulder was just so opposite of how he was in the premiere. Like now they're throwing away. He's going through the old case files. This was ICE. This was a fraternity prank. This was a promotion for a gardening company. So I was trying. It started to give me a sign there that this might be a little more tongue in cheek than serious. And I think it was probably right around when they were at the hotel. I mean, there were moments that you laugh and you recognize it's overly silly, but when they're going through the peepholes and you see them looking at Mulder in his red Speedo and it was kind of, all right, this is, it's beyond silly. And then with the big reveal of the nature of the monster, that it went, I thought it got very clever, but definitely had fully committed to going into a silly episode. It reminded